Course and all, welcome to the latest edition of Fearless and Devotion, joined by Tim and Liam, who were both at the game yesterday. We will talk about that. We need to thank our sponsors, the Fat Boar and all the other Rich Watkin amalgam pubs. Liam, can you reel them all off?
I'm not as good as Pollard at it, to be honest. The Buck Banger on D, Effie's, Hill Street Social. What's the one in Clyde? Croyce Howell. That's as far as I can get. Along
Yeah.
with the Fat Boy, obviously in Wrexham.
Let's be honest. Only the Fat Boar sponsor us, so the
My
rest
squid
is
ball,
just for
my squid
free.
ball.
I also need to talk about the newsletter. Please subscribe. We had another good issue this week. It's £15 for the first year. I'm trying to find the code for you. Here we go. As you can see, professional as always. Bear with me a second. So yeah, please subscribe. There you go. Absolutely brilliant. I would say it's probably the best Wrexham-based paid-for newsletter in Wrexham.
Is it the only one?
And the world.
It is the only one, but the original and the best. Right. Okay. Let's stop mucking about. Let's get into Rotherham. It was nervy, but we got there. And Liam, is it a 2-horse race now?
It definitely feels like it. We've opened up, I want to say, is it a 4 or 6 point gap on Stockport just below us?
And a game in hand.
Yeah, with a game in hand. So things in that regard, it does seem like we're splitting away. There seems to be a pack which very much in contention for the playoffs. And as it stands now, it looks like us and Wycombe with that all-important game coming up. It was good to see us taking advantage when, results around us didn't go Stockport's way, etc. We actually got the 3 points. It wasn't pretty, as I'm sure we'll come on to, but I think now it really is in our hands, and that game coming up next weekend is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, it's taken on a whole level of new importance. Before that, we've got Reading as well, so they just keep on coming. I think this is our difficult spell. I think we've got so many sort of gilt-edged games in a quick period, but I do think our squad is strong enough in most places. One place it probably isn't strong enough at the moment is midfield, Tim. Rathbone went off yesterday. Are you worried about that at all? And are we further depleted there? I mean, Dobson wasn't fit for yesterday. Obviously, Cannon's out for the foreseeable. Is that where we're lacking?
Maybe. I spoke to his dad after the game. His dad said that he's jarred his knee and it was just a little bit of cramp, but he said he's fine. So I'm seeing as Mick Rathbone as a physio. I'm going to go with Mick Rathbone's word.
He would know.
Yeah, physio and father. So, I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying that because obviously we've had no update yet because of the short turnaround. But
I think Parky did mention cramp. Someone mentioned to me earlier, so.
Yeah, it's no great surprise because the amount of yards he puts in, it's just his. I'd love to see stats at the end of every game. It's just insane. But I wouldn't say. I mean, obviously George Evans came back on the bench as well, so I wouldn't say I'm not overly concerned there. I can't imagine Dobson's a million miles off. I can't remember what the issue was there. Was it a strain or some description? I can't remember what that situation was. But obviously McLean came into the middle of the park yesterday off the bench. So there's options there. So I'm not massively concerned, if I'm honest. And yesterday, just to sort of quick comment on the game, it was workmanlike, it was gritty, and it's exactly the sort of thing that Parker used to do in his first season, is eke out these 1-0ers. Might not be pretty, but it's effective, and that's all that matters at this stage of the season. So I'm all for it. I can't believe by the time we come around to next week's pod, we're going to be in single digits for games left. That is absolutely crazy. So it tells you again how good of a season that we've had, how enjoyable it has been, despite what, the microcosm of games. Some people are just saying, oh, it's not good enough. It's not this, it's not that. Come on. Joint second. We were almost outright second for 10 minutes before Wycombe got their equaliser. Joint second with 11 games to go in League One is the stuff of dreams. And yesterday, at the end of the game, I think I put it on the socials. you could sense it. Liam will say the same thing. Everybody was singing from maybe the 70th, 75th minute, just to drag the lads across the line. They knew what sort of game they'd been in. And it was like a sort of palpable sense of relief and belief in the same moment upon the final whistle. It's very Notts County. It's very Mansfield last season, where you just think the gloves are off and it might just be happening again.
You know what? It is all about accumulating points at the moment, and I don't care how we get them. I mean, I watched the Huddersfield game, and I know you were there, Tim. That was not a pretty game, but you know what? We got 3 points from it, and everyone says it's us versus Wycombe, but I just think we're in so much better form than Wycombe at the moment. I mean, they managed to scrape a draw at Peterborough yesterday. Yeah, and talking about the midfield, I think what you've said there about McLean coming in, I think is a good option, and I think as Revan has really taken to that left wing back berth now, it allows us to bring Jimmy into the centre mid. How good was Revan yesterday? I thought he had a tough start to his career. You just sort of wonder, was he right sided? Was he left sided? Where could he really sort of get in and play a run of games? But he's had, I think that's his fourth start in a row, fourth or fifth start, Liam.
Yeah, we got quite a close view of him where we sit in the Mould Road stand, and it was just how clever he was with positioning his body in front of the defenders. And there was situations where you thought he might have lost the ball, and then he just got a foot in, just making those crucial little tackles. I think the defensive side of his game is actually quite impressed me a lot in these recent weeks. So I think, like you said, what that does is, so when McLean came on, he played in midfield. Again, you had, so on that left-hand side where they were coming, or our left, their right, we had two players there who are really capable, making tackles, making crucial blocks, and it just helped us get over the line. So I think that does give us options in midfield. I mean, I'm not sure on the severity. Parky seemed to be playing down the severity of the injuries in midfield, but at least we've now, by Revan stepping up, that now gives us that option as well.
Yeah. Look, I'm looking at Wycombe's run-in now, right? So I think they've got us on Saturday. They're not playing on Tuesday. Then they've still got some relatively easy games. They've got Rotherham away. They've got Lincoln at home. But towards the end, it gets really, really tough for them, right? So they've got Bolton away. They've got Charlton at home who are flying. They've got Leyton Orient, who we know are capable. And then they've got Stockport. Is it, Tim, that if we just get through these next few games, maybe pick up a point against Reading and a point against Wycombe, are we in the box seat? Is it ours to lose after that?
I think we'll know a lot more after this next 7 days. It's massive. It's the biggest of the season. This 7 days for me, it's massive. But because of the way the results went, we mentioned the Wycombe thing. Stockport obviously dropped points earlier in the day, goalless draw. I wouldn't go as far as say it's ours to lose, and that's still too premature. And we've been there before where we were sort of, our ass has been bitten. So I just think we're in a good position. And whilst I know what you're saying about Wycombe, I've got this sort of running and that sort of running, Parky will be in the same mindset that I'm taking, which is concentrate on yourself. Forget about everything else. You have to concentrate on yourself. Nothing else really matters. We don't care about this result there, that result there. Focus on what matters, which is the games that are coming thick and fast. Reading haven't scored the last 2 home games. And when I put out about Huddersfield having not scored the last 5, people are like, oh, it's bound to happen against Wrexham. So they're not exactly, hitting the ground running at home, Reading. So I think it's a good opportunity to go there and get a win. Why shouldn't we think that way?
No one seems informed at all.
Why? I think going back to what I said about the game, that there's a sense of belief because, we've got the home form slightly back on track with that win. Never really looked in danger of losing it, really. The away form seems to have sorted itself out. So why can't we think big? Why can't we be sat here in a week's time and be 6 points clear? That is when it's ours to lose.
Yeah, I know. All right, we've got a guest. He's going to come on in a minute. It's a good guest. I think he'll be good entertainment. But before I get him on, can we just talk about Jay Rodriguez, who everyone likes talking about Jay Rodriguez?
Go on, J Rod.
and Smith. I thought Smith's goal was a very, very smart goal. And I thought he had a very bustling performance. But how was J Rod? Tim, I'll come to you first. You seem quite vocal on it.
Only because I don't like this pile on of players. He's been here not that long. You're trying to adapt to a new style of play, get used to the players, and just because he's played at a high level, we're expecting him to do all manner of tricks, and do like a similar situation to Ian Rush. He comes in, we're expecting worldies from. It's not going to happen. It's got to take a little bit of adjusting. So I thought he had his best game for us yesterday by a mile. His all-round game was impressive. I think 3 or 4 defensive headers before there was even half an hour on the clock. So he does a lot of the stuff that it's easy for people not to see or to forget about, or it does the ugly side of the game. But I thought he's really good. I thought, he shows a very neat turn of pace, which I think we've alluded to before. His assist for the goal is very clever. He knows where Smith is running into that space. He's shown the awareness to put it on a plate for him. Bad defending, arguably, but I just think
there's no arguing about that. That's terrible defending.
Yeah, it's shit defending. Yeah, but I just think at this point now, and you can see what it meant to them. You can see the celebration and what it meant to them as a pair. They've probably come under the cosh a little bit. They're fully aware of the Mullin and Palmer kind of, cult status, loving, and that's a lot of pressure to come in and try and say, yeah, well, this is us now, and we're going to drag you across the line. And I was delighted for him. He was close to getting an own goal. He should have got a foul for it. It didn't quite work for him, but I still think he's going to chip in with a couple of goals sooner rather than later. So I'm happy for him. I'm happy with that pairing.
Let's bring in our guest, Ian Herbert, Chief Sportswriter of the Daily Mail, Wrexham fan. You must have seen a bit of Jay Rodriguez during your time.
Yeah. I mean, he was on the fringes of the England team, I think, wasn't he, at one stage?
Yeah, I think he got a cap.
One cap, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of those players you'd never have thought we'd be even in the market for a few years ago, obviously. But saw him at Burnley a few times, definitely. And there we go. That was the knock on yesterday, and helping seeing us home. Yeah.
I mean, do you think I mean, the jury's still out on him, from many Wrexham fans. Is that the spectre of Mullin and Palmer? Though we can't seem to get away from those two. They've been such good servants for us that people are calling for them all the time, and maybe we sort of know that they have to adapt this team as we go forward. And now we're pushing for the championship. Was it only sort of natural sort of wastage that these guys may get sort of shunted to the side?
Yeah, I just don't know whether I'm being sort of over sentimental about this, Andy, but I just think that the way they've been cast aside really, as it's quite shocked me. That I mean, you guys may disagree, but I just sort of think they've been such a huge part of our lives and of our club's evolution and of the return to the league. And suddenly they're just not even in the picture. They're just cast out like a couple of old shoes, and I think that, okay, so Paul, he missed so many chances in the early part of the season, didn't he? We were all willing him to score and willing him to find his way back. And, he clearly wasn't doing it, cutting it. But I mean, my kind of broader view on where we are is that this sort of relentless push to sort of go promotion. Isn't there scope for our club to evolve in a more organic way, to actually do the things around the infrastructure of the club that need doing, and to give this sort of sense that players are reaching the end, but they get a bit of go, and then at the end of this season, well, maybe Mullin on the salaries obviously isn't going to be part of it. But I mean, I thought Palmer played really well in the early part of the season. I thought I was really surprised. I thought he was
fitter. He looked leaner, didn't he?
Non-league.
Yeah.
So I mean, my broader view on it all is just I just sort of do question whether why are we having all of these games that are like, even yesterday. I mean, I wasn't at the game yesterday, but it was a really attritional game. And this extraordinary euphoria at the end of it. I mean, we've beaten Rotherham at home. I mean, they're 14th in the table. I mean, I don't know. I just sort of wonder where it's all kind of gone, really.
Right, this leads me to a big part of the reason why you're on, Ian. It's not because we don't love talking to you as much as we can, but you put a really interesting article in the Mail this week, which got me thinking. I'm just going to read some of the key points out, and it's basically, in a cold light of day, I don't really want Wrexham to get promoted to the Championship, which sounds a bit bizarre, but then your reasoning is sound. The squad is littered with age, big name players bought in on big wages in the short term to take Wrexham up a level. It's less a football team, more of a collection of players. It doesn't feel healthy. And other things you were saying about, we spent a lot on Jay Rodriguez's wages to get us over the line, but we still don't have a training ground. There's still a temporary cop. What you talk about the commercial side and how it's basically a room. I can remember when I was covering Liverpool all those years ago. I mean, they were a big, huge Premier League side, but their commercial department was in a box room above a shop. I mean, it feels a little bit like that in certain areas. The press facilities are Spartan and limited. The fan food is basic. The football journey has been incredible, but little has changed off the pitch. Now, for me, I don't disagree with your points, but there's always a but. I wonder if we'd ever get a better chance to go up to the Championship than what we have this season. What we've done this season has far exceeded my expectations for what this side were capable of. I mean, I thought anything around 8th or 9th would be a success. Now, the way the league's panned out, everyone seems to be pretty much capable of beating anyone else. We've gone on a bit of what I would say with Parky is, what he's like. He's a percentage manager. He gets you that 2 points a game, which has put us in an absolutely brilliant position. Can it be, Ian, that if we did manage to get up to the Championship, that's where we could stabilise? Or do you think the quality is so high there that we would struggle?
I mean, it's possible, Andy. Yeah, it's possible. And, I think it does seem a bit perverse to say, after all that we've known for all those 18 years in the non-league, well, let's get promoted. I certainly give you that. And I sort of sounded Nathan out a bit on it, who's, infinitely.
I can't say his name on this podcast, Ian,
on these things. I'll take his view all day long, and then I think his kind of view was, there are two arguments. There is an argument to say, well, let's just get up if we can, and we're in this incredible position, joint second. Let's get up, and then let's sort out the rest. But and then I was at Huddersfield, and then there was all the singing about promotion and town away, I like it, and what a great night that was. And you're thinking, you've just written this piece saying I don't want to go up, and that just sounds like crackers. But just hang on a minute though. Let's just have a look at. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we know, a lot of the fixtures and fittings of the club are just exactly as they were before Rob and Ryan came in. And I do think the club shops. I mean, I write quite a lot for the Mail about lower league clubs, and I spent 2 or 3 days at Carlisle a few weeks ago. American owners, shocking football, looking like successive relegations. But I mean, they've got a good fan zone area. They've got a big screen outside the ground, and they've got more space to play with than we have. They've got a decent club shop. American owners who've actually put a lot into that side of it, and I just sometimes feel it does all seems to be about, the televised documentary story of Wrexham. And I don't really feel that, for one reason or the other, we've not really evolved in the same way as a broader football club. So what happens if the documentary goes in a couple of years? Don't we want to stand still for a season and to get some of this stuff in place and then see what happens? And I realise that you probably might all disagree with that, but I've just felt it, really, especially when Ryan came on with one of those, hilarious, and I love them, what they've done, but another of those sort of Instagram or Twitter requests for us all to buy club shirts because they're piling loads of money at the club and they need, it's a kind of a financial black hole or whatever. That's my view. That is a view.
Right. Okay. You say we might all disagree with you. Tim, do you disagree with Ian?
I mean, Ian kind of, he sounds a cautionary tale of what could happen, what's to come, isn't it? And I'll be honest, even just thinking about it then, am I nervous about going to the Championship? Yes, because I've never witnessed Wrexham in the Championship, so I won't know what to expect. But that's the fear of the unknown. And with that element of trepidation comes kind of a perverse excitement about it. The idea of playing Pompey and teams that have just been relegated from the Premier League and seeing if we could really hold their own. Nobody expected us to hold our own this year, so... And I see firsthand, I do witness firsthand, there are elements of the club that are still way, way dragging behind in terms of other aspects of it. A lot of the focus now is on the COP, finally. There's other aspects. There's been a bit of a disconnect, probably arguably bigger, depending on who you speak to in terms of the community aspect of things, with players being pulled from fans groups, etc., etc. But obviously, Michael Williamson told us the reasons for that at the live event. But yeah, the club shop, it is a box. We've seen a lot of other local businesses fill that gap for retro stuff and other things, and making great sales in it, and great. And why wouldn't you do that? So there are elements that are lagging and dragging behind. Is it the be all and end all at the moment? No, not for me. I think it's definitely something that we need to address sooner rather than later, this year rather than anymore. I think there comes a point where you go, why is your club shop still this size? Why are you not sending more players out into the community? Why is the training ground taking forever? Why is it a suitable location not being identified? All these little things and they all eventually tally up and add up, and you think, Jesus, maybe we're not quite ready. But the big thing for me, if you put all that kind of more supplementary stuff aside, shirts will sell. Doesn't matter if you sell them from a broom cupboard. It just depends on volume. The big one for me is, where do you put the players next season if they go up? You can't be having this nomadic existence from
Training
going
ground,
to
yeah.
Colliers
You can't get a better class of player. You can't get a better.
Of course you can. But do you remember years ago, like pre-takeover, our biggest seller was Colliers Park. It would always be the quote, wouldn't it, in the paper? Oh, we showed them around Colliers Park and that was it. They were in.
We couldn't
So
give
it was
them any money
always
then,
that.
Tim.
But ultimately, there needs to be something now. There needs to be something in play that says, yeah, okay, we know we're ahead of ourselves. Okay, so you have to have a plan in place. What is that plan? You need to start telling the fans, or give us some breadcrumbs as to what that plan might be. Because at the moment, we're all going along on this crest of a wave that everything's wonderful, which it is. It's great on the pitch, off the pitch. I agree with Ian, we're not quite there off the pitch, but does that have an effect on how I want us to see us go up? Probably not.
Yeah. Liam, you know a lot about the off the field stuff. Even this week, there was a share that got sold for 14.8
a single share for 14 million. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like they're not trying to sort of catch up off the pitch, but what makes good television is not someone sitting in a meeting and going on about planning and phosphates and what we can do in 3 years' time. What makes good television is Wrexham doing well on the pitch. And I can, we sort of said, we sat here a couple of weeks ago and said they're in a great position. They need to bring in a couple of strikers. And what if they hadn't have done that? What if they'd have said, yeah, you know what we should probably do is stay in League One for a bit. We're not going to spend the money this time. We're going to make sure the training ground's sorted first before we bring in a Sam Smith type striker. How do you think that would have gone down? And what's your sort of view on where we are, pitch versus off the pitch?
I do think there's an element to which, with a football fan base, I guess you take either approach. You take your foot off the gas slightly on the playing side, and then, well, I mean, look at yesterday. We won, and there was some miserable git behind me who shouted, "We're still shit." So you do get that element of.
You can hear Tim from where you sit.
Ian was sat next to me. Don't blame me.
But no, I think Ian's article was. Your article was very well reasoned, and the thing that frustrates me occasionally, this is as a journalist, but someone had written beneath, where they clearly hadn't read much of it and just said, like load of rubbish type of thing. And I'm like, oh, can you just at least read the damn article before you comment? But yeah, in terms of the infrastructure, so at our live event, Brian Flynn mentioned the training ground. Mark Crichton mentioned the training ground. These are people who've been involved in football for, well, between them, who knows how many years. So they know a little bit about what they're talking about. And I think the training ground is the one where they would have liked to seen that put in place a bit earlier. And I think Michael Williamson's quote was that let's get spades in the ground on the Kop first, which was kind of like, I suppose, fair enough, because you got juggling a lot of plates. I wonder though, I mean, I get the argument about the motivation being the documentary, but I sometimes wonder if it's almost a slight cultural difference. I was talking to someone about this yesterday, and I think North Americans, it's a very can-do, art of the possible type of attitude, whereas like, in my own personal life, I'm very much not sky is falling, but always thinking what could go wrong, what could go wrong. And the sense I get from Rob and Ryan is from the start is, well, why the hell can't Wrexham go up to the Premier League? And I think from their perspective, I just wonder, are they looking at it now and saying, we've got a real good opportunity of going to the Championship, so let's just go for it? That was just my thinking behind their driving force more than anything, because we know that there's some factors that aren't quite there. Can we get those in place while we're in the Championship? I mean, Bournemouth crowds of 11,000 still in the Premier League. They're still putting stuff in place there. So that would just be my slight counterpoint to it, I think.
Okay, so you do sort of subscribe to the fact, get to the Championship, right? I think we all know that if we get to the Championship, it's 2 or 3 years of basically existing, just trying our absolute best to stay in that league.
Yeah,
it might even be we come back down, but at least we've gone up there.
The one good thing, if we were to go up and we didn't quite, I mean, having spoken to a few Swansea fans and other fans, they said that they think we would be well equipped to deal with the lower reaches of the Championship. They said the Championship is essentially 2 leagues in one. You've got the top 10, top 11, and then downwards. And they seem to think that we'd be okay in that second part. The only sort of thing I could think of is that it would probably press reset on the fan base in terms of expectation, realism, and because we've had it so well for 3 years. Yeah. I just think it'll be very interesting if when we get pumped 4-0, 5-0, and 3-0 on a 5-match winless run, how many people stick around then? And that's not me being facetious. Just genuinely, I'm interested, because we all talk of a 30,000 stadium and this, that, and the other. But it'll be very, very interesting to see what happens in terms of if we were to get there and we have some very lean spells, and there will be, what the reaction would be then.
Yeah, you know what? On a personal note, I would enjoy it, because I like to go to a game, and if you do get a point, it's great. And I don't like to go to games and know we have to win and just have that sort of anxiety. Just to get a shock win here or a point you never thought you were going to get, and it actually actually help. I think that would be great. I'd enjoy that for a season or two. Ian, I don't.
It's to work out with promotion, though, in a sense, is that I mean, really interesting points, guys, from all of you, and I think what's weird about it is it's just it's just hard to conceptualize what does our team look like in the Championship? I mean, I suppose Max is going to be a part of it, and I don't know, there's going to be maybe 3 or 4 players, but it's just going to be like a completely new team again and okay, maybe that's just what it looks like. Maybe that's what it is. But I mean, I might be just being a bit over emotional about this kind of turnover of players. I mean, I know it's a kind of a sort of, it's not the main point. I know it's not the main point, but I don't know how Mullin feels, but doesn't he deserve better than this? I mean, doesn't he deserve a bit more of a go, or is that just idealistic?
It feels like a decree absolute, doesn't it, with those guys? It's like, I see where you're coming from in terms of what you said about an assortment of players and how you don't necessarily get the same emotional buy-in as you would with your Palmer, Mullin, Lee, Jordan Davis, if you want to go down the sort of more local aspect. And when there is a sort of solid turnover of players in a short space of time, you kind of, people start saying, mercenaries, but that's not really been the case, I don't think. But I know what you mean. I think there is that fear of a disconnect between players and their fans, and that's why I always
feel like you can't fall in love because they might not just be around for
Mullin is the one for me that I've struggled with. Just this thought that we've had this striker. I say to everyone, how many 100+ goal strikers have we had in our history? And the idea that he could
It's
just
gone
be
sour.
cast aside, and that bit. That's the one that's I've really struggled
All
with
right,
from that
okay. Put it another
perspective.
way. All right, okay. We don't cast Mullin aside. We play him all season. We try and get him back fit because he's a hero for us, and we're ninth.
Parky should have gone and bought somebody else.
Sorry?
That's what it would have been. Parky should have gone out and bought somebody else.
Tim's right. I mean, you're right. I mean, it's a fair point. I mean, I think probably I might have felt a bit less strongly about it if Rodriguez hadn't, if he'd looked more on it. I mean, I just, like for the money he's on, for that weekly salary and the kind of what he's. I mean, if he'd been a sensation, then maybe I might have thought a bit differently. But I mean, there were just sort of. I'm sort of. I mean, okay, there was the assist yesterday, but I'm sort of starting to wonder. Well, if he doesn't deliver more, is he? Look, you may shout me down here. Is he earning his starting place? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just don't. I know that was a good assist yesterday, although their defender was crap. The 22 could and should have cleared. But I mean, for that money, for the money he's on and the money we've paid for him for what he's delivering, I just don't see it. And that just seems to be an example of almost like hindsight's a wonderful thing. They obviously thought he was going to have delivered more in his first 7 or 8 games, but that's just throwing money away and the chance of an extra 5-10 points to go up. That, I don't know. He almost seems to me to be a metaphor of this kind of conversation. Really, like you've thrown a shed load of money at that, and what's that about? He's not even that good.
Look, I know what you mean, and there's parts of it that I have to sort of turn a blind eye to, and I think that is bringing the likes of Billy Waters in on a 3-year deal where you just needed cover for 2 months. I don't understand that. It is the likes of you've got Luke Bolton and Will Boyle who probably not even got a ticket to the ground at the moment. But it's bits like that. I do feel that we waste money in a lot of occasions, and I do sort of feel that that's been part of the plan to really sort of supercharge us up the leagues, that we will spend more on people and we will sort of outbid people and give them longer deals and then not give them a training ground to train at. Yeah. I mean, all right, if we are going to sort of throw this forward a little bit, say we did get to the Championship, what players do we think could thrive there? I'm going to say I think Arthur could. I think Max could. I think maybe Tom O'Connor. I do think that the higher up he goes, I think the better he'll become. After that, Brian Barnett maybe, Ollie Rathbone.
Yeah.
And you would have to think that a £2 million striker could do well there. Yeah. After that,
I agree. I think that's a really good list. I mean, I'd love it if don't sound like Kevin Keegan here. I'd love it if Andy Cannon could be in that. I mean, I just think he's a beautiful player who brings light and shade to games in a way that quite physical midfield we've got doesn't. But I mean, you've got to ask the question of whether he would be on that list. But I think that's a really good list. But it illustrates that not many.
Yeah.
Your point though, Andy, about would you take 9th and a proper, not farewell to Mullin, but seeing players through to the end of their time in a way which affords them the respect that they deserve? Yes, I would take that. 9th and a decent season for Mullin and Palmer, and
to say goodbye
farewell at the end of the season. I would take that.
All right. I would take it, but only if you throw in a training ground at the end of it, Ian. Because I'm greedy.
You don't want much, do you?
The Super Paul Mullin Training Academy.
I'd take that. I'd take that. As long as it's not Plasmatic Leisure Centre, I'll take that.
There's got to be suitable sites around Wrexham, though. I know people have alluded to various places, sort of industrial estate way. There's got to be suitable.
But if you think about it, like the COP is tangible. You can say, right, we're spending this money to get X amount of more people into the ground. It shows that the club's expanding. But the training ground's not sexy like that, isn't it? It's not like it's not going to suddenly
It is to personnel, though, isn't it? I think that's the point.
But getting in the star players is good. Box office. Getting a new cop is box office. Getting somewhere that you don't really see that often in the background isn't box office. But I tell you what, having that and be able to develop players, and say you take the likes of Max, and he's worth 15 million. When all the stuff I'm talking about Rodriguez, about Billy Waters on a 3-year deal, if you sell him to the likes of Leeds for 15 million, guys get wiped out in one go. That is why football clubs are so, and lower league football clubs are so attractive to foreign owners, because they know that just one player can sort it all out if you sell it for the right fee. And that's part of the academy, the training ground sort of way of doing it. But it's not instant and it's not box office. So I can sort of see why they're going for the cop first, because it's more tangible than something in the background. Ian, while we got you, and you know a lot about football finances, is there anything that worries you about how Wrexham are financing the likes of the cop at the moment? I know that the Allen family are coming in and being quite generous, and I know Rob and Ryan are the perfect marketeers to get the commercial in now. But is there anything that you sort of think when you see a share going for 14 million, that worries you a little bit?
I suppose the more diverse the shareholding is, then the less we know about who's investing in the club, I guess. I mean, ultimately, when it was just Rob and Ryan in the early days, and they didn't have the Mexican franchise and they didn't have the Colombian franchise, and they were at the racecourse more, you sort of felt you kind of inherently knew there was something beautifully simple about it in the early days. So I suppose that is perhaps a concern. I think I think more broadly and look, you guys are far more across it than I am, and you may say this is nonsense, but I suppose where they are unique, aren't they, in the sense that because of their creative capacity, and because of Ryan's extraordinary global reach, that's why we get the huge big ticket sponsors, and the Allen family aren't going to get that, and the and no other investor's going to get that. So I suppose once they're out the equation, then it's not so much the amount that they invest, but the profile that they can bring to would be United Airlines or whoever it might be. So I suppose we're only on this. Are we not only on this scale because of them? So it's not whoever else they might get in. So I suppose that's a slight concern. I suppose that would come back to I think something Tim said earlier. That the thing about whether we just we need to just to get the promotion while we can now. While we've got their money, we get as high as we can, and then maybe then it finances itself. I don't know. That's the other argument, I suppose. But I suppose it just feels like it's they're not going to be. We knew they weren't going to be here forever, and it all feels it's not quite as secure as it was with them. Do you not think?
Maybe. I mean, I know Ryan's got a lot going on personally, and maybe that's sort of held him back a little bit on maybe public appearances, and you still get the odd video. But you're right, they're not as involved as they were at the start. But really and truly, do they need to be? They've always been a bit of a sideshow. So to try and they're not the sort of people to want to come in when it's such a vital part of the season and make it about them. I understand that. They've stayed in the background. They've got the right football people in, they think, the likes of Michael Williamson to run it. So they don't really need to get involved unless they absolutely have to. Now, the only part of me, something that interests me about this is, we're sort of saying we have to develop the training ground, we have to develop the squad, we have to develop the commercial aspect, but do we have to develop the fans? And what I mean by that, the fan base, do we have to take them with us? There's a loyal fan base there of 5,000 Wrexham fans who I've seen them up and down the country. I know their faces, right? These are the guys that have been doing it for 15, 20 years, probably more. Now, on top of that, you've got a lot more North Walians who are interested, but they may be fans of other teams, but they've just jumped on board the Wrexham bandwagon, and they're getting in on it. They like success, but they're getting in on it. And on top of that, you've got the third layer of North American and global fans who probably don't have a football team, probably aren't huge soccer fans, but like Wrexham, they like the story. Now, is it that we have to keep winning to get these fans completely committed to us? And what I mean by that is, do we need 3 years of promotions of them sort of tasting that and over a prolonged period before they can really call themselves Wrexham fans rather than Everton fans or Seattle Sounders fans? Is that something? Tim, you're looking at me confused. Do you not?
No, I just like the fact that you just put like the 3 sets of fans, like a 3-tiered fan cake, and what level you're at. Yeah, like a sort of
Mr. Irv of fans.
Yeah, like a loyalty system basically in place. I personally, I'm thinking if you don't get it after 1.5 seasons of this, given what's been achieved and under the glare of the spotlight and everything else has come with it, if it's easy for us to see, because when you're a fan of your local team, you either get it or you don't. You either love it or maybe it takes a little bit longer, but you're either there for the good times or you're there for the good and the bad times and everything in between. And for me, a true football fan is the one that takes it all. The good times, the bad times, the indifferent times. So I think anybody who hasn't really figured out if they're a Wrexham fan after a maximum a season, then there's something really wrong with how you want to assess your fandom.
Something wrong with them. Good.
Well, no, I can't. Like people say to me, "Oh, who's your?" Even now, who's your second club? Who's your Premier League club? There isn't one. But why? Because I have nothing in common with that place. For me, it's always about this team represents the place and the culture and where you're from. And I know it's slightly different now because we've got a lot of fans from overseas. So, but from a personal aspect, it's like, well, I've got nothing in common with Liverpool. I'm not from there. I couldn't tell you who's what, where, why, what the names of the pubs are. So for me, it's always been about more than just the football club. It's about the area and half the country, to paraphrase Spencer Harris.
Okay. That's the second level of my fan cake.
Thank you very much. I'll take that. I'll take 10 loyalty points from the second layer.
But it was incredible, wasn't it? I mean, it only really took that, those National League seasons, didn't it? Really, for us suddenly, you just couldn't get tickets sort of straight away, could you? So it didn't. I said earlier on, I spent quite a lot of time recently at Carlisle, just doing a piece about Mark Hughes and coming in as manager there, and they've got American owners, and I mean they're a bit like us in some sense, in the sense you've got this this really big catchment area, which obviously was part of the whole Humphrey Car matrix at the outset. Why Wrexham and all that.
I bet Carlisle were on that matrix.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Which stands to reason, in a sense that they've got. I think because they were that hinterland, if you like, or that geographical area was always a big part of it. And they're still getting 7,000, even though they're bottom of the league. And I think if they were to get when they turn it around, which I think they probably will eventually, they see 12, 15,000 coming back there. But isn't that always been the case with us? And I mean, we've always had. When we've been, obviously there was so many years in the non-league, but I mean, when we were a reasonably thriving league club, wasn't it really? I know we're going back into the 80s now, but there is a 15,000 captive audience there, even in the days before you had the international audience. So, I mean, we have got that local fan base, I think, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I think what happened over the years is people just made reasons why they didn't want to go to the racecourse, like we're not spending enough money, or they didn't like the experience, or they didn't like the manager. And I think slowly we've taken away all those reasons not to come to the racecourse. And I do think that when you go to the likes of Liverpool, you take your family to Liverpool, well, that's a £250 day out. And you are literally a credit card number. Well, at Wrexham, you can probably hang around, get some photos with the players. It does still feel that there's a little bit more sort of involvement and sort of community sort of aspect supporting Wrexham. But that will erode with time if we go up. Of course it will. Right, Ian, I just want to read some comments. But obviously we put some of your.
This is the cruel part, Andy.
Honestly, there's nothing can be quite as bad as the reality of writing for the Mail on Sport week in, week out when you write a column. So,
all right. It's just my favourite.
That's just
promotion
a
is
deep.
not
Go on, Andy.
promotion is not a bag of chips, and you can't dip into it any year you feel like. Promotions, they're right. Promotion is not a bag of chips. Strike while the iron is hot. Let the fans experience new stadiums and dream for the Premier League. Never settle. Liz, Brins Barnes says, if you've got a chance of promotion, take it. It might be years before it comes around again. If we lose momentum, yes, it would be great to see some younger players, but equally, we can't underestimate the value of the players with experience who've been there and done it. Let's just go for it and see what happens. I'll read a few more. Firstly, I'd rather we went up and had a go at it. Even if we finished 21st in the Championship, it would leave us with a decent footing going into 26, 27. I sort of agree with that a little bit. Right. I don't quite understand that one.
Are you just kind of editing out the ones that are personally vindictive?
Yeah, all the ones
I definitely screamed out some in favour of Ian as well. I didn't just.
Andy,
I just
where's the
didn't do a
one where you
job.
called Ian a rude word? That one was no somebody else.
This one from Nathan.
Behind that polite
Go fuck yourself, Ian. Look, I know, but I think if we didn't go for it at this point, I think we would probably not lose some of the fan base, but I think there would be a lot of questions. Now, the only thing I'm thinking is people saying, the promotion makes we might not have a chance like this again. I mean, there's nothing to really say that because Birmingham have already made this like a National League sort of scenario that only one's going to go up.
Yeah.
Who's coming down? I mean, Plymouth don't look like they're another Birmingham. Derby sort of go up and down, but really and truly don't probably have the financial muscle that they used to have. I mean, who's to say that we couldn't have another go at it next season? And with two promotion places available, that we could get one of them. I mean, Tim, what do you think? Do you think it's just a strange league this season? I mean, have you been surprised by the quality of it? Because I think I have a little bit. I thought it was going to be a massive, massive jump up from League Two.
Yeah, but I have. But because on paper, you look at the division and think, Jesus, this is a strong league. And having spoken to fans of other clubs that we played, they've said it's the strongest it's been in a while in terms of the overall picture of the division and the teams that are in it. But I think it's testament to how well we've adjusted as well. I can't just say that it's a diminished quality league just because we're in it, along with Mansfield or whoever. Let's be honest, Mansfield are kind of the example of how you can come up and not quite find your feet. They sank. They're below mid-table. So I have and I haven't. Some sides have surprised me, like the Leyton Orient of the world will just unbelievably good, yet they're still 15 points behind us, and they seem to have dropped off.
5.
Yeah, then they've dropped off a bit. So it's a classic saying that everybody can beat everybody on the day. If you kind of take Birmingham out of the equation, they have spent wisely. They're managed fairly well, and it looks like they're going to win it at Cantor. So yeah, it is a weird one because I think it's easy for us just to go, well, let's just focus on the club. But in terms of the overall domino effect it's had on the community and everything else, that can only benefit again and again and again. If it was to go up again, there's more opportunities there. There's going to be more businesses coming to the area, more places opening up, more footfall, things that are going to have to be just tag into what Ian said before, but park and rides, that's a big thing for me because it's a nightmare. Like I walked down the other day and some of the cars that were parked on the sort of main stretch of road that I come from, they were backed up to there, and without being a middle-aged man about it, it is pretty dangerous where it was parked. I'll be honest.
Did I mention the one the other week, the Birmingham game that was parked on the central reservation down Mould Road? Someone just reverses up in a flatbed truck.
But these things have to be in place, especially when the cop's built. I mean, depending on what happens when they take the temp cop away for, £14 million worth of spades in the ground, then, that needs to be considered because parking is very, very limited. There's literally it feels like there's next to nothing for people with disabilities or elderly having to walk quite far to the game. Those things need to be taken into consideration. The finer points, and it's the finer points which sometimes matter the most.
Maybe we should just move the ground somewhere else. Has anyone ever thought about that?
Don't go there.
E&Q. No.
All right, let's tie this up. Been a really good chat. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for coming on, Ian. Let's look ahead to predictions. So we've got Reading away and we've got Wycombe away. And Ian, I know you want us to lose. You want us to lose both of them, and then go on a 10-match losing run. With Paul Mullin up front.
Ollie Palmer on the bench.
But really, okay, right. I'm going to go first. I'm going to go to both games. I would take a draw in both. I really would. And I know you're sort of saying that Reading don't score many at home, but they're still a functional, attritional side. And I think this is our really, really tough part for us. And if we can go through this unbeaten, I will be happy, because then I think we can push on again. So 2 tough away games, 2 long trips down south. I'm going to go 1 each at Reading, and I'm going to go for a bit more entertaining at Wycombe. I'm going to go 2 each. Tim, what do you reckon?
Oh, you know what? I'm going to be super, super positive about it. And the idea of being 6 points clear this time next week excites me greatly. So we're going to go to Reading, and Phil Parkins is going to get a wonderful reception, but he's going to stick the knife in. Charlie Savage is going to have a crap game, and we're going to win 2-0. And then Wycombe, that's just destined for an 88th minute Stephen Fletcher winner. So I'll go 1-0 at Wycombe. And then everybody will have the champagne and ice stupendously early, has to be said. But why not? We're in form.
Oh, Liam, can you bring us back into the real world, please?
Well, I've got an interesting prediction. So I think that we will lose 2-1 against Reading, and everyone will be up in arms. They want Parkinson fired out of a cannon, and someone will scale those new floodlights, if you can scale them. I don't know, they're quite awkward. But then the redemption comes with a 2-0 win away at Wycombe, and everyone believes again.
2-0. I mean,
I think 1 win out of either of those games you'd be happy with.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, and the only reason I'm going for draws is I think, it just means that they're not taking points. They're not taking 3 points, either Reading or Wycombe. So, I mean, in a league where no one really seems to be in form, I think we're probably in the best form at the moment near the top, because Huddersfield have fallen away, Stockport are very inconsistent. Wycombe just they've been picking up points, but they've not had 3 or 4 wins on a row. So I just think it's about accumulating points. That's the key thing at this. So just go away and grind out some draws away from home at tough matches, and then build again, because when we go into the run-in, I think it eases off a little bit.
I want Ian's predictions now. He's going to surprise and say 3-0 wins to Wrexham.
Well, I just think that I could see the Reading game being a bit maybe like the Huddersfield game. I could see us winning, maybe nicking that 1-0. Not a lot in it. I mean, that was a really well-managed game, I thought, at Huddersfield the other night. And then I don't know, but I think Wycombe will be better than us. I think a 2-1 defeat at Wycombe. So I think a win and a defeat. I see it that way around.
I know you don't want us to go up, Ian, but putting that to one side, do you think
maybe
we
I can
will
come
go
on
up?
every week as the kind of the satanic figure, sort of like mocking the team when they don't get the points?
Well,
you were
Ian's
on
happy
level
this
3
week.
of the
We
fan
bloody
cage.
lost. But okay, do you think we're good enough to go up?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely do. I mean, I think that for the reasons that you just we just covered. I mean, there's no who's. I mean, Birmingham clearly, miles away. Although obviously the home game there, that was a cracking game. That the home game against them, and we could have won that game, right? So we're not getting. There's no one there we need to be afraid of. I've not seen a lot of Wycombe, but they do seem to be pretty consistent. But yeah, absolutely, and it is an extraordinary league table. I mean, now we are joint second, so. And we've just got that ability to grind out the wins, haven't we? And there's a little bit of luck involved. I mean, we could have been 1 down, couldn't we? and we should have been really one down yesterday, shouldn't we? So, but Arthur's save, and then the rest is history, sort of thing. So you absolutely could, yeah.
Ian, just one kind of last question for me, just to kind of sort of bottom out the article and everything that's been put across in it. Let's just say, to all intents and purposes, we go up, we're in the Championship, and let's say we have a pre-season somewhere, you go to that pre-season, and then by absolute chance you bump into either Rob or Ryan, and you have 2 minutes of chat with them, all cards on the table, nothing off limits. What would you say to them? If there's any one thing that you could say, right, we're in the Championship now, lads, but this is what I think you either need to be aware of or you need to do. What if you had those 2 minutes? What would you say or do?
It's good. It's a great question. I think what I would ask them is, where's the new investment coming from? Because if they really want to go to Premier League, haven't we said all along that yes, under this model, with their kind of brand of ownership, with their incredible reach, we can get the sponsors to bring in the money to buy the players to get to Champions. But haven't we said all along that really where the whole economics of it change is the sort of wild west of the Championship, where teams are throwing the absolute kitchen sink at finding the money to go up, right? I mean, we're talking about billionaire owners, we're talking about need. So where's the extra cash coming from for the next stage? If you really do, because if we do go up, and then we are talking about going from National League to Premier League, that will be the Wrexham narrative, won't it? It will be a national narrative of like, can this little club from North Wales do this incredible thing? Can they do what Swansea did?
We're the underdogs.
We'll all be having and the flashback will be to Ryan going on BBC One with Mark Hughes and Gary Lineker before the Sheffield United Cup tie, 3 years ago, and saying why not? Okay, but we need extra. Their money's not enough, I think, for that stage. So I think that would be my question.
Yeah,
because if you say to them, can you do it again? They'll say, why not? So
how are you going to do it again?
How?
Yeah.
Liam, can you just fill us in on the Wrexham women's result? The game's just finished, isn't it?
Yep, very, very good result. 2-1 win against Cardiff for Wrexham win.
Wow, is that the first time they've beaten Cardiff?
Yes.
Must be.
So two massive
brilliant.
glass ceiling breaking results after what looked like a really difficult start to the season. Ava Suckley and Abby Iddenden with the goals for Wrexham, and a deserved win by all accounts from what I've been reading following it. So yeah, well done. That is absolutely massive. I think that potentially puts, I might be wrong, but I think that potentially puts second within their reach now. So bloody hell.
That's some turnaround. That is a massive turn. Yeah, well done to Steve Dale, all the women, everybody involved in that setup, because that is the benchmark win. That is your statement win. We talked about a statement win at Huddersfield. Now the women have had a statement win today against Cardiff. So, and it's always fun to beat Cardiff. It might happen next year. We might swap places with the men's team. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
Wow, brilliant. Right, well, a great way to end. Thanks so much for coming on. I think that's it. No, any other business? No, right, okay. No singing, Tim.
All good. No. I had to think about this. I'll do something next time. I was trying to think of a Sam Smith song, because the current one is.
That was rubbish.
I'll agree on that.
Yeah. When he gets the ball, he scores a goal. Oh, what?
Sammy Smith. I was going to go down the sort of I was going to go down the Ted Lasso, Jamie Tart. Sammy Smith. But that's equally as crap. So
have a think.
Never mind. I'll come up with something.
All right, good. Right. Good to see you all. Thank you so much, and goodbye.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.